Yeah, so that last view got a bit of attention. And just for reference, this right here, that's 400,000 people. That's insane. But in all seriousness, I'd like to thank each and every one of you who are supporting my project through subscribing or even just watching the video. It really means the world to me. I hope you guys are going to like some of the ideas that I incorporated for this new revision. I did incorporate some ideas from the comments as well. And anyway, if you're new here, let me introduce you to my latest project. This is my Eink PDA that I've been working on. I've created this device because I find modern devices are pretty distracting at times, and I thought it may help to create a device that's free from things like that. You can use it to write notes and do a couple other productivity tasks, and let's go over what's new. Okay, I'm gonna start with a quick overview of the major changes that I've made over the development of version 2. I have made some significant hardware and software changes that I think make the device much more usable and closer to a finished product. After a quick overview, I'll go into detail about the new features, how they work, and how I made them. So to start out, the most striking difference that you're going to notice about version 2 is these really nice keys. Many people mentioned in the comments that the embossed keys may have been hard to read. I'll put a picture of them from the last version right here. So I scrapped the silicone buttons altogether, and I went with a double shot styled key, like a full-size keyboard. So you can see these keys have a nice, they're plastic, but they have a nice white inlaid lettering kind of legend. You'll also notice at the bottom some tiny text. Let me zoom in a bit, so hopefully you can see that a bit better. So this text shows the time, the current time, and the date and day. I changed these. Originally, I had planned to have the time and date on the Eink, but I didn't like that it was updating so frequently, and lots of partial updates are kind of bad for an Eink display, so I went with the OLED. They have to be small because they have to get out of the way of the lettering, so even like the letters that go a little bit below the line, like Y, J, and G, those still don't conflict with the time. So that's why it has to be small, but it is pretty readable in real life. There have also been some pretty significant updates to the case. Most notably, these hinges are quite a bit bigger than before. I've also added some screws in the hinges to make it more robust, and the action is a lot better now. And the device closes fully now. It actually did not do that in the previous version. The text app has also been completely overhauled, almost entirely rewritten, and it's dynamic now. And by dynamic, I mean you can now change the font, you can scroll, you can do all these things that you couldn't do before. Unfortunately, the way I wrote it originally was not very receptive to being changed. which may reflect a little bit on my coding style, but we're not going to talk about that. So it had to be almost entirely rewritten. As far as completely new applications go, 2 have been added. The first new application is File Wizard. Whoops. And in this, we can take files and rename, delete, copy, or show more information about them. And then there's tasks. If we hop into tasks, we have a nice little interface for viewing some upcoming tasks with their due date and adding new tasks as well. And if we plug this guy in, you can see we got a charging indicator that actually works now. And if we sleep the device, we can see a nice little docked mode where you can see an analog clock and some of your upcoming tasks. Before I go into detail about all of these new changes, I'd like to take a quick second to go over today's sponsor, JLCPCB. JLCPCB offers easy, affordable, and reliable custom PCB manufacturing to makers like me. I've used them countless times in projects, and they always provide top quality PCBs at a really low price. The ordering process is super easy. You can upload your Gerber file, and in a few clicks you have a quote. If you want PCB assembly, it's just a few more clicks after that. JLCPCB is offering 1 to 8 layer PCBs for just $2. Their large-scale production allows for this low price and a reliable 24-hour lead time. Thank you so much for listening to the advertisement, and be sure to check out JLC's link in the description to get $30 off and $5 6-layer PCBs if you're interested. Okay, let's get into the details, starting with the hardware. So as I mentioned before, the case has been updated with much larger hinges to compensate for the tolerances on the hinge parts. I did learn from last revision that the small circular parts tend to come out more ovular or more oval shaped. So increasing the radius of the hinges helped get the hinge action working how I wanted and a lot better. The device actually fully closes now because of this change. It didn't do that before. And there are also screws in the hinges for better rigidity. The next big physical change on the device was these nice new buttons that you see here. As many people pointed out in the comments, while silicone initially seemed to be the right way to go, ultimately the typing feel just wasn't there, and the silicone buttons looked a little janky. So I decided on a sort of double shot looking plastic key, similar to a full-size keyboard with inlaid button lettering legends. To achieve this look, I started with resin 3D printed individual plastic keys. I arranged the keys in sets of 10 and ordered them from JLC. The quality on the prints was really nice, and once I snipped them off with flush cutters, I could move on to the next step, inlaying the key legends. For the legends, I used white air dry clay to contrast the black keys. I pressed the clay into the embossed letters and carefully removed the excess using a little bit of water to kind of help loosen things up. In a few minutes, the clay was dry and I could add a top coat to make sure that the button tops were smooth like you see here and that the legends wouldn't fall out. The top coat is just made of whatever clear nail polish my girlfriend had, so the quality on it isn't fantastic, but it does the job pretty well for what it is. And of course, all these individual keys have to make it into the case as well. And a couple little PCB changes. So if I close this, you can see that the components on the screen PCB have actually been flipped to the other side of the circuit board. This means that they're visible from the outside case through the clear plastic. In the process of moving these over, I actually neglected to mirror this connector here. Whatever connection needs to be on the right side is actually on the left side, and they just go in the wrong order. So unfortunately, I did have to coil this ribbon cable up a little bit weird to get it to fit in here and work properly and not fry the top PCB. But you can see that the connectors for this are actually in line. So in the next version, I'll have that fixed and this ribbon cable will come out straight and actually connect properly between the two. You can also see that I've added a guard. This is plastic. That's to keep the ribbon cable protected when it's open and closed, and it kind of goes over there to protect it. Okay, and now for the new software updates. So in this version, I have changed quite a bit in terms of software. I guess starting on the home screen here, the first major change is, as I mentioned before, we have a nice time and date readout here, but also there's a new way to interact with the home menu. So instead before you had to press 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. To choose an app, and that still works. You can still type 1 and get to the text app if you want. But the main way that you interact with this is that you actually just type what you want to do. So if I want to go to text, I type text. If I want to go to File Wizard, I can do Wiz, or I can do File Wiz, whatever I want to do. So this, I think, allows for a lot of commands that, you can ask it, what can you do? And obviously that's a pre-programmed response there. But there are a lot of commands that make this easier to use through this. So I found, I was inspired by AutoCAD, where you type in the bottom, like say circle, and it'll give you the circle tool. This is a similar way. I also added, just for an example, time set. And then if you type like 12:39, if if you hit enter, this will change to 12:39. So that's a way that you can enter the time. But anyway, we'll use this first to launch, the text app. And we'll see some new changes here. So the major change with this, obviously I mentioned it's been rewritten. This new text app has a completely new operation, because as you're typing here, you can see that if you hit space, it doesn't send the word directly here. And I did that because I realized it kind of sucks a little bit not to be able to edit whatever line you're on, because if you make a typo while you're typing quickly and then it gets sent to the screen, then you're kind of out of luck because you can't go back to edit it. And this may be something that I can fix in the future by allowing you to go back and edit. But for now, I think this is actually a better way to do it. And we can see here that there is actually a bar at the top as well. And if I zoom in a bit so that you can see it better, you can see that as I type stuff, this bar gets longer and longer across the screen until eventually it gets to the end. And there is an indicator here that tells you when you're getting about 20% from the end, so you can make sure to finish your thought on one line if you want to do it that way. But once you get to the end, you can see that we automatically get our line sent from the OLED to the Eink. So I think this is a better way to do it. And this progress bar here is actually based on the width of the characters that are being put up here. So this works with any font is basically what I'm saying. No matter what font you use, this progress bar is always going to fill up correctly and give you full lines correctly. So that is the major change that I made on this version that I think is going to make this a little bit more usable. So if we go ahead and load up that example text that I was showing earlier, we can see we have a text full of a lot of information. There's a list on the bottom. There's paragraphs. I added tabs for indenting. And I guess this is a good text to exemplify the scrolling mechanics. So this here is a capacitive touch strip. It's controlled by a capacitive touch IC here. And there are traces that go to each of these pads, and I can sense them individually. And when you move up and down, if I zoom in a little bit here, you can see that there's a preview on the bottom of what text you're looking at. So you can see the tabs represented there, and you can see the line lengths, which kind of help you visualize where you are scrolling in the text. So if I go up here, you can see that once I've released it, it'll send you to that part of the text. And if I scroll down, we get back down to that bottom part. So obviously Eink updates very slowly, so there wasn't a great solution to scrolling. Obviously it can't update live. That would be the best thing, you know, like a cell phone does. But the next best thing is, I think, a preview of the text represented with lines, just the length of them, so that you can see kind of where you are relative to other things in the text. And then once you're done scrolling, it flashes an update on the screen to get you that information. So let's try something else out. I'm going to clear this, and I'm going to open up a new file. We're going to name this file test. Okay, so we're just going to type something really simple. Let's send that line. Now you can see that we have this simple line in our chosen font. If we want to change the font, we can hit FN and then tab, and up pops a font list. So this allows you to change the current font that's used by the text editor program. So say we wanted, what we have now is kind of like a thinner and small font. This is good for having a lot of information on the screen. It can fit a lot more characters than the other ones. But say you wanted a more bold font, you could choose number 1, and you can see that the line gets or the text gets updated with the new font, and the line, since these characters are a lot bigger, actually went on to the next line. And if we switch it again to an even bigger font, maybe a giant one like number 6, we can see that even though this word did not fit on this line, it's going over and then doing that. So yeah, let's get into the next app here. To go along with this new time that I added here, I thought it would be cool if there was kind of a desk mode. You know, you set this thing on your desk and it acts as a little analog clock, and it tells you your upcoming tasks, like a sticky note that's sitting on your desk. So if I grab USB-C cable here, and I plug this guy in, we can see that we get an update here with a battery charging indicator. This battery indicator actually works now. It did not work before. And then we have sleep button on the side. This is actually also new. It was on the last revision, but it wasn't used. So if we hit this sleep button, it'll bring us to a little, I guess, mini app called Now and Later, and it shows an analog clock. This is correct to the time that I set earlier, and you can see it just updated, and it gives you your next few upcoming tasks, which are walk the dog, homework, and ice cream. I guess I got a big week planned here. But if you wake the device back up, it just goes back into normal boot, and I can show you the tasks where I added those, you know, homework, ice cream, walk the dog. So if I enter task here, let me unplug this. You may also notice that this has been flashing a lot more. I realized I actually burned through one of my first Eink displays. On the last revision, I burned through it because I partial updated it too much. These displays are actually a lot more fragile than I initially realized, and you need to make sure in the code that you're using them within their operating conditions. You need to, every 5 refreshes or so, 5 partial refreshes or so, you need to do a full refresh to make sure that the pixels are cleared out and not gonna like fade or anything. But anyway, Tasks app. So this is a simple little widget, I guess, to add a name and a date. That's all you get, a name and a date. Very simple. What is the name of the task and when is it due? And it does sort them in order of when they're due as well. But if I want to add a new task, I can hit N here. And it's going to prompt me to enter a task name. So let's say edit video. Let's throw that in there. And then it's going to ask me for a due date. I guess I don't really have a due date for this video, but I'll just put, I don't know, 2025, March 30th. It's going to save it, new task added, and it's going to add that. You see edit video due on March 30th, 2025. We can also here, if I decide that I didn't get my video out in time and I haven't earned ice cream, I can choose number 4, and I can choose to delete the task as well. And now it's gone. So, and these tasks do update on our nice Now and Later as well. If I power the device off here, you can see now we got walk the dog, edit video, and homework. So you can sit this on your desk and have a nice little clock, have a to-do list, and power it on when you need it. That's nice. And I actually forgot to mention this earlier, but if we hop into the text app here, and then we hit the sleep button, we'll see that actually this was recommended to me in the comments. Instead of flashing the screen with an image, we've left the content of the screen on there and just put a little sleeping icon down in the corner. So this allows you to have the device off. This is completely turned off. It is using almost no energy, but you can still see the content of the screen. You can still see whatever note you had pulled up. And the last new big change was File Wizard. So if I do File Wizard here, you can see we have a nice little file app. Let's say test.txt, for example. Click this, and we have a nice little file wizard here who is willing to perform these spells for you, namely Renamio, Deletius, Capinio, and Elabora. Yeah, I know, they're very stupid names, but just go along with it, okay? Renamio obviously renames, delete a file, copy a file, show more information about the file. So let's rename this test.txt. It's going to prompt me to enter a new file name with some rules, no spaces, stuff like that. So it was test before, so let's go crazy. We'll call it test2. I know, insane. Okay, so we've renamed our file now, and we get sent back to this screen, and we can see that that file is now test2. Say we hate test2. We want to completely get rid of it. Let's do that. Open here, hit delete. It'll make sure that you want to delete the file. You're going to hit Y to delete it and N to not delete it. Let's hit Y. It's going to say deleted, and it's going to bring you back, and that file is gone. So this works pretty well. There's even a copy function. So if I hit this and then I hit copy, it's going to ask me for essentially a name for the copy. So let's call it YouTube. There we go. So now we got lorem ipsum and YouTube. So if we go back to our text editor here, and we open up in File Wizard Lite, if we open up YouTube, we have our same exact file. It's been copied over with a new name, essentially. So that is just about all of the features that I've added to this. Please enjoy some Colorado footage as I take you through some next steps. So I want to implement a calendar app. I think for a PDA device like this, it's critical to have a calendar app. It'll probably work sort of like tasks, except instead of a list, it'll be, you know, a calendar format. You'll be able to put stuff in there, what date it is, what time it's at, and be able to keep, you know, track of your things that you need to do on a calendar instead of just a list. I also want to add a journal app, and I'll put a picture of what I'm thinking right here. I've already started to work on that. It's going to have kind of it's going to be like a daily journal kind of thing, where it has sort of a GitHub inspired, you know, activity chart. Every day that you do your journal, it's going to fill in a little square. And so you're going to be able to see your progress very clearly. And it's going to motivate you to journal daily, essentially, because I think that's a good thing to do. I also want to add an SD card slot. This thing currently only has 8 megabytes of memory, and that's handled internally on the ESP32, because that'll allow you to put a lot more on this. And I'm not exactly super confident in the memory that's on here. I don't know how robust it is or if it will last a long time, but I think an SD card is good. I also am working on a way to transfer files from the device onto, say, a desktop or a laptop, or even maybe like a tablet or a cell phone through Bluetooth or USB or Wi-Fi. So lots of options there, but we'll see what I figure out and what works the best. I was also playing with the idea of having notes that can sync to Google Drive, which I think would be really cool. If you're on Wi-Fi, you can sync your files to Drive, have them saved automatically and updated, and that way you can edit files here on the go. Then when you get home, they'll be synced to your, you know, Google Drive, and you can edit them on your computer, refine them, stuff like that. Also, for people who like to write on the go and don't like this little keyboard, obviously this is good for quick notes, but not, you know, longer writing. I'm gonna plan to add Bluetooth keyboard support, so you can pair a Bluetooth keyboard up to this guy, you know, set it up on a desk and type away on your Bluetooth keyboard using this. And that'll hopefully make the experience a lot easier if you're wanting to, you know, write something a little bit longer on this. In my last video, I got a lot of comments and emails of people being like, please make me one. Can I pay you to make me one? And the response was very similar to all of those. I don't feel comfortable making these for you yet because it's not a complete product, and I want to make sure that if this if I'm making this or selling this to people, that it is a complete product and not, you know, going to fall apart. The software is going to be up to snuff and not buggy. So it's not ready yet for that, unfortunately. So here's my plan. We all hate incomplete products, you know, EA. I think the hardware needs at least 1 to 2 more revisions before I'm happy with it as a product or as a kit. And after this, I'll likely begin selling a development kit of this, where it includes, you know, the PCBs, everything you need to build one, and people can buy the kit and build it themselves. At that point, I'll also be open sourcing all of the design files for this, you know, the PCB Gerber files, the 3D files for all these buttons, you know, the bill of materials, what you need to buy to actually make one of these, and that'll all be open source. So if you don't want to buy the kit online, you can purchase all these parts yourself and put it together completely of your own volition. But for those who don't want to do that, and also because of the way scaling works with production, it'll probably be cheaper to buy my kit, but you can just download it for free and, you know, do it completely yourself. That's fine too. At this stage, the device is going to be in a sort of alpha testing, and you're going to be part of the development, which is really cool, but it's not going to work completely well. It'll still be in testing and in production. And this is where you guys step in. So by trade, I'm a mechanical engineer, and if you have taken a look at my GitHub, you can probably tell by the way I code. So I'm hoping that some community members can, you know, help to build upon what I've created and make it better, as well as work with me to add features to the device to make it more usable. You know, once I consider the product complete, I'll probably sell these as a complete kit, you know, once I'm comfortable with this as a product. And I guess maybe for a higher cost, I'll assemble it for you. These are handmade, so it'll probably be a much higher cost. But for people who don't have access to the tools or don't have the skill set but still want to participate in this project, then I will probably likely offer that option. This all being said, if you are very interested in the product and you want to follow the development, there are some YouTube buttons down there. You know about them already. If you're really interested, I've created a Discord server where I'll be posting periodic project updates and getting community feedback, and that link is also in the description. As always, thank you so much for watching and supporting the channel, and I hope you have a really good day.